This is AIM Agenda. Thanks for your company this morning. With me now, Liberal MP Kelly O'Dwyer and Labor MP Nick Champion. Thanks for being here, Kelly. As I understand it, there was a lot of anger within Liberal ranks yesterday about this proposal to boost funding. How did it ever get to a situation where the party machine had done the negotiations? The party room, when it found out about it, blew up.
Well, there had been no discussion in the party room, Kieran, and the bill was only presented, as I understand it, yesterday to the Liberal Party. And I think a lot of people interpreted that, not just within the party room, but more broadly in the Australian electorate, as a pretty cynical attempt to gain access to taxpayer dollars, and rightly condemned it. I think the only person who's been out there defending this bill is my constituent, the Attorney-General, Mark Dreyfus. I can't find anybody else who defends it.
Nick Champion, your response to that? Because the senior ministers, the Treasurer and Anthony Albanese, others were also saying that this was the right course to reduce the reliance on corporate or vested interests.
Well, look, I'm a little surprised at Kelly's comments because, as I understand it, this bill was bipartisan. It had a lot of consultation between the Federal Council of the Liberal Party and various people in the Labor Party before it came into public view. And it follows a long public debate. There's a green paper, a white paper, I think, that Senator Faulkner, when he was a minister, put out, which is basically about reducing the sort of disclosure limits down from 12,000 to originally it was 1,000. In a bipartisan agreement. Well, in a bipartisan agreement between the two parties,
they're only going to get
they've said 5,000.
John Faulkner,
a respected elder of the party, said he was ashamed by this proposal.
He was upset about that portion of the bill. That's true. But look, I guess the thing about it is if there's no bipartisan agreement on this bill, then there won't be a bill.
It won't happen. No, Kelly.
I
want to go to Kelly now, Nick. I'll come back
to you. But on the Liberal Party machine being involved in the negotiations, and then the Liberal MPs, when they found out about it, very unhappy about it. From what I understand yesterday, within Liberal ranks, it was as strong a reaction as there's been to anything recently. A big public reaction as well on talkback, and I know you guys would have received phone calls as well. How did the Liberal machine do that, and then the parliamentary party, just be so opposed to it? It just seems to be chalk and cheese.
I can't comment on the Liberal machine because, I don't know how you're informed about what it is that the Liberal Party's supposedly been negotiating, but I don't have any insight into what's happened there. And if you have insight into what the Labor Party machine has been negotiating, well, good luck to you. But frankly, it's not a bill that is supported. It's not a bill that Liberal Party members support. It's not a bill that coalition members support. It's certainly not a bill that the Australian public supports, and it won't get through.
Yeah, it seems odd that, and finally on this issue, Nick, to you, that this would even be considered 3 months out from an election, a couple of weeks after a budget, where everyone's saying, we've got to rein in the spending.
Well, Kieran, it would only have been contemplated if there was bipartisan agreement at the very senior levels of the opposition and the government. That's the only way that such a bill comes before the Parliament at this time. If there is,
obviously,
and I find it a little passing strange that we've got all these Liberal backbenchers out there running a mile from this, while we know that their party machine, and that's officialdom at the highest levels of the Liberal Party. Right, the highest levels of their parliamentary party, they all knew about this bill. They all knew about this bill, and they knew about everything that was in it because they helped negotiate it. This bill would never have come into view if it wasn't for that bipartisan agreement. Now, if the Liberal Party are walking away from that, well, I think it tells you something, and I think Tony Windsor said this, tells you something about doing deals with the Liberal Party at the moment.
It's been a gift for the
independents and the Greens, though, hasn't it, this whole discussion?
Well, look, the Greens
because they can take the moral high ground.
Well, no, they can't. The Greens certainly can't take the moral high ground on any of this. And let's not forget the Greens are actually, currently in government with the Labor Party right now. So let's not say that they're somehow distinct or different, because they're not. But the first thing to note is that the Greens, who talked a lot about public donations and how they wanted to stop individual donations, received the largest individual donation that any party has received at any time in its history. So the Greens, frankly, are complete hypocrites.
Well, I think that this might be a rare case of bipartisanship. Let me take a wild stab in the dark on that.
Look, there is one agreement, one thing I'd like to raise with Kelly. I mean, if it's the increases in taxpayer money that's such a problem, well, the Liberal Party can just simply sign off on the disclosure limits, and we can take it down to the $1,000 limit if you want.
Well, look, I think
if that's the objection that the Liberal Party has.
Well, I think, Nick, actually, that there are some broader issues regarding donations, and I think that the Labor Party is funded to the tune of multi-millions of dollars by the union movement, and not one of those members gets a vote. Not one. No, well, let me finish. You asked me the question, and not one of those members gets a vote on how their membership money is being used. Now, I think that needs to get a very, very serious look, because frankly, I also think that is a misuse of union members'
Let's
funds.
get Nick's response and then we'll move on.
Well, look, on the membership ticket of union membership is voluntary, yes? Yes?
Well,
union membership is voluntary,
well,
yes?
not on all construction sites.
Oh,
I
yes,
wouldn't say that it is.
Come on. It is. It is. You passed laws under the Howard era.
I wouldn't say
you passed laws under Howard era, and on the membership card of my union is, a thing about the Labor Party.
Does it ask if you
Right, thing about the Labor Party.
allow?
The thing about the Labor Party. Now, will do corporate shareholders get asked?
No.
Do corporate shareholders get asked?
No.
But they fund both parties, don't they?
Well, not always.
All right,
Not
let's-
always.
I want to move
Not
on.
always.
Let's look at the resignation of Martin Ferguson. Will there be more of these individuals, senior members of the Labor Party? Labor royalty, as Tony Abbott said, served a long time in the opposition ranks under the Howard government. Why would they want to go back into opposition? Well, there'll be more of these sorts of
Well,
resignations,
look, I think
won't
that's
there?
the wrong question. I mean, I think Martin left Parliament, or was leaving Parliament, after a very, very long career in public life. And it goes back prior to his time in Parliament, when he was president of the ACTU and secretary of the Miscellaneous Workers Union, a great, in a great Labor tradition of his father and his brothers. So he's made a significant contribution, an honourable contribution, which Tony Abbott paid tribute to. It's a tradition in the national interest, not just in the Labor Party's interest, but in the national interest. I think he's got he's entitled to go off to a less public life, to a private, life with his family, and to do other things. And I just think that will happen on both sides of Parliament. As time progresses.
Jack and Mary Ferguson, as you said.
Jack Ferguson, former Deputy Premier of New South Wales, and in fact a former next-door neighbour to my parents, incidentally. But there you go. Kelly O'Dwyer, your thoughts on the departure of Martin Ferguson?
Well, look, I would agree with Nick that Tony gave a really excellent speech in tribute to Martin Ferguson for his life of public service. And I think we can applaud people on both sides of the chamber for their years of public service and for the sacrifice that does involve. And Martin Ferguson referred to the sacrifice that he has made with his family along the way. But what I would say is, to borrow your expression about passing strange, it is a little passing strange, the timing, of course, of the resignation, and it comes shortly thereafter from a speech that Martin delivered when he resigned from the front bench, strongly critical of the Prime Minister. And look, who knows? There may well be others, and certainly I know that there are people out there talking up, the chances of other resignations in my state of Victoria.
Okay.
And we'll find out.
Let's leave on a positive note, though. I think you would give Tony Abbott a thumbs up for his speech yesterday. It was a good speech.
Well, look, I think it was rare for Tony. It was rare. It was a rare. Look, I'm not going to. I can't praise him indefinitely. Look, I think in Tony's more considered moments, he's less partisan and more generous to his opponents than he sometimes is when he gets a rush of blood to his head. And look, and maybe that's true of all of us. Maybe that's true of myself. Maybe I'm, it's a pot calling the kettle black. But maybe it's a lesson for all of us.
We've got to go.
Nick Champion, Kelly O'Dwyer, great to see you both. That's all for AIM Agenda. The news is next.
It's dividend time at your Lexus dealer. Until June 30, enjoy 1.8% fixed comparison rate finance on the sensational RX line and the equally impressive CT200H. Don't delay.
That could be a simple mistake. Or a deliberate move for a long-term advantage.
Perhaps.
But no, you're someone who plans ahead. I'm thinking you don't make a move unless you've thought things through. And if you don't have an answer, you'll find someone who does.
ANZ Wealth Managers can help you make the right moves to achieve your long-term goals.
Nice move.
at Coles. And here's what's new at Coles. The Coles Made Easy range. With 100% Aussie lamb shanks in a full-bodied and aromatic sauce. Already cooked for 5 hours, so you can just pop them in the oven for only 35 minutes. It's slow cooking made easy. Deliciously new. Mwah! It's part of the Coles Made Easy range, and it's new at Coles.
In a complex business world, exceptional thinking is critical, and this level of insightful thinking only comes from a chartered accountant. To find out more, visit thinkingthatcounts.com.au.
With new bars, restaurants and entertainment, there's something new for every one of you. Crown Resorts.
When you have power, the world is your oyster. And your soft-shell crab. Thank you, Pam.
If you've been taking a course of antibiotics, a probiotic such as Inner Health Plus may assist with maintaining the balance of good bacteria. Inner Health Plus, available at pharmacies and health food stores.
Have you had your Inner Health Plus today?
Sent from her own backbench.
Should be no gambling ads whatsoever.
Kieran Gilbert from Sky News, what would you say to them?
I would hope that the voters would speak up.
Bill Gates saying all Australians should be proud of what they've done to help the world's poorest people.
Delivering unrivaled live coverage. This is Sky News, Australia's news channel.
What it shows is that when the community gets engaged and puts pressure on the old parties, they will cave.
The Greens praise community power, with the opposition set to walk away from the government's plan to increase public funding for political parties.
I'm copping a whacking at the moment and I deserve it.
Eddie Maguire willing to step down as Collingwood president, but maintains a racial remark about Adam Goodes was a slip of the tongue.
And construction at several NBN sites shut down over asbestos fears.
It is 9 o'clock in Melbourne. In Perth, 7 a.m. Good morning. You're watching First Edition for this Thursday, the 30th of May. I'm Nina Stevens.
And I'm Michael Willesee. Also coming up this hour, South Australian Health Minister apologises to 72 women whose breast cancer went undetected by digital mammograms.
Sportsline follows this bulletin with Jim as the Blues coach.